Welcome back to Chapter 24 of The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. In this chapter, we're going to see a couple of vocabulary words, and the first is threshold, which is a noun describing the frame of a door or the beginning of something. So in this picture, the threshold is this rectangular shape that you step through when you open a door. That's the physical threshold. But threshold is also a word that is used to symbolize the beginning of something. So you might step over the threshold into a new adventure. Someone might stand at the threshold of excitement awaiting them. So threshold is not only meaning that you're stepping through a physical door, but sometimes we use it in writing to emphasize that it is the beginning of something new and different. Our second word is the word moon, which you might think you know what moon is, that moon up in the sky. But in this case, moon is being used as a verb, and it means to spend too much time thinking about or looking at something. And it's something that you admire or you want very much. So if you went shopping, you might moon over a new toy. You might moon over dessert that your grandma brings over to your house. So when you moon over something, you are really, really excited about it. You admire it, and you might even want to have it for yourself. Okay, so we're going to see how those words play out in Chapter 24. Here is the illustration for Chapter 24, and it's very interesting because here's somebody we've seen before. And so Edward Tulane was mended, put together again, cleaned and polished, dressed in an elegant suit, and placed on a high shelf for display. From this shelf Edward could see the whole shop, Lucius Clark's workbench and the windows to the outside world, and the door that the customers used to enter and leave. From this shelf, Edward saw Bryce open the door one day and stand in the threshold, the silver harmonica in his left hand flashing brilliantly in the sunlight flooding in through the windows. "Young sir," said Lucius, "I'm afraid that we made a deal." So there's Lucius Clark showing Edward to Bryce. "Can't I see him?" asked Bryce. He wiped his hands across his nose, and the gesture filled Edward with a terrible feeling of love and loss. "I just want to look at him again." Lucius Clark sighed. "You may look," he said. "You may look, and then you must go and not come back. I cannot have you in my shop every day, mooning over what you have lost." "Yes, sir," said Bryce. Lucius sighed again. He got up from his workbench and went to Edward's shelf and picked him up and held him so that Bryce could see him. "Hey, Jangles," said Bryce. "You look good. The last time I seen you, you looked terrible. Your head was busted in, and—" "He is put together again," said Lucius, "as I promised you he would be." Bryce nodded. He wiped his hand across his nose. "Can I hold him?" he asked. "No," said Lucius. Bryce nodded again. "Tell him good-bye," said Lucius Clark. "He is repaired. He has been saved. Now you must tell him good-bye." "Good-bye," said Bryce. "Don't go," thought Edward. "I won't be able to bear it if you go." "And now you must leave," said Lucius Clark. "Yes, sir," said Bryce. But he stood without moving, looking at Edward. "Go," said Lucius Clark. "Go." "Please," thought Edward, "don't." Bryce turned. He walked through the door of the doll mender's shop. The door closed, the bell tinkled, and Edward was alone. So we'll see in Chapter 25 who walks through the door of that doll shop next.